for people who don't know you, Siobhan, give us a very brief introduction to who you are and what St. Tola do.
Okay. So my name is Siobhan Ni Ghairbhith. I'm from West Clare, just south of the Burn. I have St. Tola Goat Farm for the last 21 years, where we produce our own goat's milk here on the farm, and we make both raw milk cheeses and pasteurized cheese and milk. And I have a fantastic team of 6 full-time people with me who all just live within the locality, which is fabulous. And we produce a range of very natural goat's cheeses and milk here that we're very proud of, that are very individual to the area where we are here, just south of the Burn, outside the village of Ina. And that's me.
Brilliant. So, as you were saying there to me earlier, like this all just came so fast and came as such a huge shock. When did you kind of start feeling the impacts, and what changed straight off the bat for you?
Well, I suppose the impact came was just the week of it would have been the week just before St. Patrick's Day. I suppose that's around the 9th or 10th. I had been at a lovely celebration up in GMIT, celebrating International Women's Day on the Monday, back down on the farm on Tuesday, and then just come Wednesday, I was actually talking to a couple of chefs and owner of restaurants, hotels that were just about to reopen, for the season.
Yeah.
And they were saying, and we were actually talking about new product ideas and this kind of thing. And then within a day, when I was back onto them, they were saying, I could see just from the news that 2 of our big orders didn't come in from our wholesalers that deal with food service.
Wow.
And as I was talking to chefs on the phone, they were saying we're just getting cancellations right, left and centre here, Siobhan. And I was seeing the same because we actually do farm tours on the farm as well.
Yeah.
And it literally happened, Ruth, overnight is what I would say, from the business point of view. We just saw within 24 hours, everything was just, it was before they actually shut down the food service, but we could see it was going to happen.
Yeah. And how reliant are you on the food service side? Is that a big percentage?
Very much so, and I suppose it's where my heart is within the business part of it, because we've always worked closely with chefs who are very creative, and I'm very passionate about raw milk and raw milk cheeses. Absolutely. And this is where our customers were within the food service market. So the hard part of my business was food service and independent retailers, and the head part were some of the bigger multiples. So overnight we lost 85% of our customers, which was 75% of our turnover. And I suppose, Ruth, because of the style of cheeses we do, which are mainly young, fresh, soft cheeses, we would have made cheeses that have very short shelf life. We were talking about 6 weeks, but these would have been kind of made over a period. So just within 24 hours, I had a storeroom of cheese, a cold room of cheese that I knew was not going to sell unless I did something very dramatically, very quickly. Time wasn't on my side just because of the nature of our cheeses. Yeah. But food service have always been great to us. I built up a great relationship, with chefs over the years. I've got to know them, as friends and comrades and people who I go to for ideas. And I suppose we're like-minded in the way we think about food and how food is, is grown and created and served. So it has been very difficult, and my heart goes out to, I'm looking at that I'm in food production, so I'm still growing and have a certain amount of business, but my friends and colleagues who are in food service, a lot of them have just been, have been at home, not being able to cook, not being able to cook for the public, which is what their passion is.
Yeah, it's very, very tough. And I think you're right. I think that relationship between, artisan food producers and small food producers and chefs is it's such an incredible relationship, because there's such a mutual understanding, because they really come from that place of passion and belief.
Yes. Yeah. And we bounce off one another, not just our ideas, but our energy and enthusiasm and passion. Yeah. Because we are like-minded and we feed one another in more ways than actual feed.
Yeah. So of course, you couldn't stand still, as you said. You had all your production there, and you knew you only had a certain amount of time to get it out and get it sold. So what did you do?
Well, what also was driving me, Ruth, was, as I said, the 6 individuals who are working with me on the farm, and each of them, I am their as their employer. I'm their provider of their income, you know, and I'm very aware that they had, you know, they've got families to feed and everything. So I was trying to find desperately. I mean, the announcement came out by the government, you know, that there was, you know, people could be laid off and there was, you know, a wage subsidy or kind of temporary. But I didn't want to do that to my, you know, to my loyal team who've been with me, all of them with me more than 10 years.
Wow.
So I said, lads, you know, we've got to turn around here somehow and do something. So the first thing I said, okay, our customer is really the man on the street, the woman on the street, the end customer. How can we get to them, you know, since they're not going to be able to come to us to the normal outlets? So 2 things we focused a lot, obviously on the retail side of our business, but even, you know, some of the retail was just cut back very quickly. Initially, everything just kind of stopped. So then one of the first things we did was automatically I started going online, just setting up a shop online on our website, and then just spreading the word, you know, from social media. That's one of the benefits of social media. It is free, and people have had a lot of time on that. Some people who are not working have had a lot of time on their hands and have been very, you know, open to social media and active on social media. So I suppose we set up the online shop. We got it turned around within a week, which was great because I had very good help from a friend who is good at this kind of thing, because I'm not good at IT. And then the outlets that were going, retail outlets that were going, we kind of did special offers with them, and we publicized that, you know, through social media. As a member of COSH committee, the Irish Farmers Cheese Makers Association, we automatically organised a conference call between us where we discussed how we could help the industry, because the majority of our members, we have, you know, there's 65 Irish farmers cheesemakers out there. The majority of them are very dependent on farmers markets, which still weren't shut down at that early stage, but we could see what was going to happen, and we're very dependent on food service. So we just got together on a conference call and made out a plan, kind of a PR plan to make the public aware of the plight of our members. Contacted Borbia, to be fair to them, who have been very supportive throughout, and we launched a PR campaign where we contacted media of all aspects, just to get the word out there as soon as possible about, you know, the plight of farmhouse cheesemakers, that we were open for business, that we were, you know, in production coming in. I mean, it was the springtime, so we were all coming into peak production from a milk production point of view, and therefore from a cheese point of view. And we got great support there from the media, to be fair to them, and we just started getting the word out there. Now was the most important time, now more than ever. We needed people to be very conscious of what they were buying, and that they were not just to talk about supporting Irish, but to buy Irish. So that's what
and that message seems to have gotten out quite successfully, or maybe, I suppose, I'm paying attention to you know, the people that you know, obviously to the producers and to the food writers and the journalists who write about food and that. But has it been successful from a business perspective? Did the members see a big pickup in sales?
Yes, yeah. To be fair to the public, I think once it was spelled out clearly to them, and they were able to see. I mean, we said basically, if we don't, for those people who were still working and had their regular income coming in, it was by spending their money within their local community, within their country, for Irish produce, it would get the economy back on its feet again. So people started to think to actually start becoming conscious of that. And those of us who had set up online shops, but even driving any inquiries that we got from the media campaign, driving the customers into, and saying this is where we are available on our website. So whether it was a multiple store, whether it was an independent retailers who've always been there, our online shopping, definitely we have seen an upsurge in support of people buying Irish direct from the producer or from retail outlets where they were available, which has been one of the silver linings of this very grey cloud, Ruth.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we've kind of seen, obviously the cheesemakers really kind of got out there, you know, off the blocks quickly and got the message out that they needed the support.
Well, I suppose we were looking that we had an organisation for Kosh to do it. You know,
absolutely.
It has been more challenging for other independent artisan food producers. They don't have kind of a forum. But we were looking with that Kosh. I suppose we have been long established. This year is over 25 years established. So we were able to work together as a group, you know, for the greater good, you know, and obviously have huge support, you know, from the retailers who were supporting us all along anyway, who were the independent retailers, you know, like the food service are very, you know, members in food service are very passionate about what they do, and they were saying anything we can do to help, you know, to get your products sold, you know. So we definitely put on the green jersey, as did a lot of other people, and we hope they continue to do so.
Absolutely. And I suppose the Kosh example really, in this situation, really shows the power of cooperation between producers, doesn't it?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, it has very much come to play with coping with the crisis and continuing to be able to produce and, you know, and run a business in this crisis, about networks and how important different networks are. Whether it would be, you know, as from my point of view, say Kosh, the Irish Farmers Cheese Association, but I'm also part of the Bourbon Eco Tourism Network. Like we have, you know, the Sligo Food Series, you know, the Boyne Valley Food Series, about people coming together. And also the food community that we would been working in, even chefs within our local community who've come behind us, you know, some who have voluntarily come in, you know, to help, you know, in food retail outlets, or even help cheese makers, even just in their efforts, you know, by doing posts up on their social media platforms and doing recipe suggestions, and other networks. To be fair to the media, I mean, the food writers have been absolutely brilliant, Ruth. I must highly recommend them on the support that they have given us all the way. I mean, they've always given us support, but now more so than ever. They definitely, you know, have placed, you know, Irish artists and producers there on the top. They have written and supported us so much during this. And it has been, I mean, as I said to my team, I said, all those times when I was off, you know, and you thought I was having, you know, a day out in Dublin, having a fancy lunch or doing this, I said, I am pulling in every bit of support that I have ever needed, and networking. And it comes back to people and relationships, Ruth, you know. Absolutely. And it's the relationships you've built up. It's never about, it's not just about the product, it's about the service, the friendly smile, and the personal relationships you have built up with people that have really come to play in a time of national and world crisis, to be fair.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that the networking piece is massive, and kind of keeping your name out there and having a presence and just being top of people's minds, as well as having just developed a good rapport with people. It's just so easy to kind of just pick up the phone then when you do need something.
Yes, and about being proactive, Ruth. Do you know what I mean? You know, it's about being proactive, because, you know, I suppose everybody was in shock, you know.
Yeah.
But once you come out of the shock, you have to be proactive. And I mean, artisan food producers, artisan producers, whatever, in general, anybody who runs their own business, they are proactive people. They definitely haven't taken the easy route.
Incredibly proactive and resilient, I think, as well. You know, really just ready to kind of face challenges head on.
Yes. Well, I suppose when this initially started, I mean, I was saying to John, my partner in life, who also has his own food business, I was saying, look, we came through the last crisis, you know, the economic crash. But I mean, this is a totally different ball game, you know. So initially I thought, well, we got through that, our business, and we survived, and we came out of it, we'll do this the same. But this has been totally different. But you have to be resilient in business, you know. And I mean, I came from the public sector. I was a primary school teacher, you know. Where, I mean, and there were great creative people in the public sector as well. But I mean, in the public sector, you get paid whether you are working or not working. You know, if you're in a permanent position. When you're building your own business, it's up to you to get paid. You know, it's up to you to get paid.
And you can't stand still.
You can't stand still. And to be fair, Ruth, it has been very challenging. You know, it has been very challenging. I mean, as I say to people, it has been some roller coaster ride, and the roller coaster continues.
It does. That's the thing. And I suppose as we've been through how many weeks are we in?
I think we're week 7, about week 7, I think. Yeah.
And it's been a long 7 weeks, you know, it feels like months, and it
nearly feels like a year.
Yeah.
Because everything is so, I mean, everything is so different. And I mean, I can honestly say I'm working as hard now through this crisis as I did when I first started the business,
Yeah.
you know, to grow and thrive. It is like starting business all over again, to be honest. But I'm having great conversations with people, great conversations with people within the food community, within the business community, because every so often, you know, we all hit a downer.
Yeah.
And it's just being able to, you know, just being honest and being truthful with people. And that's what I've always found in business, and even more so now. Some days you just have a bad day and you can't get motivated, or something just gets you down. But I mean, that's natural. We're humans, you know.
Absolutely. And like for me with the whole kind of self-employment journey, I think probably the biggest lesson is how important kind of mutual support is, and having people who understand your journey and who you can just send a text to or pick up the phone to and kind of just talk things out with.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, even just to talk to them, even you to talk to them, or say me to listen to somebody who is having a bad day, you know.
Yeah.
Because I think it's bringing out an awful lot of honesty, you know. Which, I mean, the saying honesty is the best policy. We all have bad days, you know. Some things don't go wrong, but I think once you're honest, and the majority of people very much appreciate that.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting when everyone's in a position of vulnerability, suddenly it becomes much more honest.
Very much so, very much so. I mean, I'm saying we're really seeing people's true colours now, as the song goes.
Yeah.
So you're definitely, because everybody is equal in this crisis.
Yeah.
You know, everybody is equal. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't make a difference what your background is, you know, your financial situation. You know, everybody is equal, because COVID-19 can hit anybody. You know.
So, of course, like you said, you know, obviously it's a horrific situation, but there are some silver linings. And, you know, I suppose anecdotally, we've seen a big move towards kind of local food, and for sure the demand has massively increased in terms of, you know, I know a lot of the veg producers who do box schemes have seen that explode. And, you know, the ideas like neighbor food, which was there but was really just kind of starting to get established, suddenly, you know, took off. And online sales for producers like yourself. So I suppose the big question, well, I suppose number one is, why do you think that move has happened? And number two, do you think that it's going to be a lasting change?
Well, I think why it happened was because people got scared they weren't going to be able to get food, basically, you know. And they were afraid, one, they were afraid to go shopping, you know, literally afraid that they would get sick by going shopping. Two, there was the scare at the beginning, food. I mean, we were seeing on social media and on the media, you know, that food, or there wasn't bread, or there wasn't flour, this kind of scare that initially happened, you know, which wasn't, I mean, it wasn't, I mean, long term, this wasn't going to be a problem. So I think that's why people started going directly to the producer, and why you had, you know, neighborhood food taking off in box schemes. It came out of fear. But I mean, so it initially came out of fear, but after that, I think people came out of an understanding about the importance of food, and the importance of sourcing food, you know, of good quality, of high quality, and things that we've been talking about for years, Ruth, like, you know, within Slow Food, the whole organization of Slow Food, and what we have been doing, you know, within the food community, about the importance, you know, of where your food is coming from, and of sourcing your food. And, you know, recognizing how important healthy food is, and the effort it takes, you know, to grow and produce such food. Being an optimist, I would hope that this is something that the general public would take more stock of, and would keep on going and supporting. And being pragmatic, there are always people who will want cheap food, but if we are actually to have a bigger vision, and, you know, to avoid situations like happened during this crisis, because it's a real wake-up call, Ruth, for us. I mean, people have been hearing, you know, about climate change, and, you know, the scare, and, you know, Greta Thunberg. There was a lot of talk, but actions weren't actually happening within, you know, even in local communities, but within governments and that. And I think now is the time, more so than ever, because all of this has come out of COVID-19, has been a result of eating habits, you know, and shopping habits, and traveling habits. So being an optimist, I think this is something that will continue for the future, that people will take on board the importance of food and food security and eating healthy food.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it feels as though there's just so many really clear lessons for us in all of this. And as I said earlier, I suppose it has kind of laid bare and revealed a lot of things that we all, you know, those of us who are thinking about food all the time knew were happening, but,
Yes.
but a lot of people can avoid thinking about most of the time.
Yes.
And I suppose, yeah, being optimistic, you would hope that even the fact that those things have been revealed will have a knock-on effect and change things for some people.
Yes.
But of course,
we would hope people would put more value on food, you know, value on food. And also, I think people are also the people who are dealing direct, you know, with producers, or who are going to neighborhood food or into independent retailers. They're also getting that, you know, that they're building up a relationship, as you know, as I was talking about earlier, and you know, which is important, because I think pre-COVID-19, people just got so busy, you know, it was kind of ordering online from the supermarket, delivered in a truck, you know, we were losing our you know, communicating in relationships with people, and people are so happy nowadays, you know, people are delighted to see other people and smile and have conversations with them, you know.
Yeah, there's a huge thing around, you know, putting more value on the simple things, really, isn't there?
Yes, very much so, very much so.
I suppose just for yourself and your own business, in terms of, you know, I suppose the kind of new routes to market that you've developed now and the changes that you've taken on, what do you see kind of continuing and being kind of key aspects of your business after this, and, you know, key changes?
Yeah, well, one of the things I always liked was, you know, having direct relationships with you know, with my customer, my end customer as well, because you get a lot back from them as much as you give to them, you know, to your products, to your cheese or whatever. So I mean, I think all the initiatives I have taken on board to deal with this crisis, I will be keeping on, you know, like my online selling, which is something I thought about before, but just didn't have the time to get around to it. We're continuing with neighbourhood food. We've set up with a friend of mine even a local delivery system within North Clare. We're dealing with Hussey Fruit and Veg, who are delivering directly into people's homes. I think people are liking that and will continue to do so. I mean, I am looking forward to and excited about getting back to working with chefs, you know, in their kitchens. I mean, I'm really missing that. I'm missing that, and I'm missing them. So I hope that, I mean, and that's gradually coming back, you know, bit by bit. You know, a number of chefs are doing, you know, deliveries, pick up and deliveries. But hopefully to get back into a restaurant and, you know, a cafe situation again, you know. So I mean, everything I have taken on board, I mean, there has been hiccups along the way because it's taken time to figure out, but I mean, everything has worked for us so far, and every little bit helps, you know. So I mean, I've always said to my business, you should never be reliant on one customer or one market in particular, and this has shown. I mean, my dealings with the multiples started as a result of the last crash, where a lot of food service were hit at that time too, and out of necessity I had to expand into the retail sector. And now it's amazing that I'm so dependent on the retail sector at the moment. It's all swings and roundabouts, and that roller coaster I'm talking about. It's like a fun park.
Absolutely. And like the old adage of like not putting all your eggs in one basket.
The one basket,
rings true in the end, because you really,
I mean, I've heard those stories for years about some farmers or producers who have put their eggs into one basket, and you know how it hasn't worked out for them, ill-treated them. So I made sure that I was never in that scenario. But I mean, I look forward to restaurants and cafes opening up again, and you know, dealing with the chefs and the owners, because they're so like-minded like ourselves. But we'll see.
Oh, I imagine as well for the chefs that like they really miss that too. They really miss that.
Oh yeah. I mean, some of them are doing marvelous posts, you know, what they're doing at home and all that. But these are people. I mean, this is an artist not able to show their craft, you know, to an audience. And for any artist, that's very challenging. But they're resilient people, as you know, Ruth.
Yeah.
So you know, they'll be back in the sun too soon.
Yeah. So I suppose just to kind of to wrap up, like as we move forward, and you know, it's very, very difficult at the moment to kind of see what the future holds. And I mean, I suppose we know eventually there's going to start being an easing of restrictions, and we still don't know what the new reality is going to look like. But I suppose, what do you feel are, for a business like yours, are the supports that are needed, and I suppose how can people in general best support your business?
Well, I mean, there are adjustments that, you know, every business like my own have to make for themselves. I mean, we have started making hard cheese again, so that will give us, you know, to store that and mature that. I mean, that's what we initially started doing, thinking, you know, there wouldn't be a soft cheese market just the way things were going. So I mean, every business has to adapt within their own business first of all. So we're making hard cheese because that takes at least 3 months to mature, and it actually improves with age, you know, so it doesn't put the same pressure on me. Okay, it's not great from a cash flow point of view initially, but at least I'll have some lovely hard cheeses out there for people to be tasting and enjoying in a couple of months' time. From outside the business point of view, I think government agencies and the government have a lot to play. Now, to be fair to the government, I think they have been very good from an employment point of view, and really encouraging those of us who were able to keep our employees on with their wage subsidy scheme. I think that's important. That continues, and then that it will be gradually phased out over time. I think they need to do some gradually phasing at the moment, because people who are working full time are just getting the same amount as people who might only have worked one day, which can lead to, which can de-incentivize people, you know. But I think the agencies themselves, I mean, definitely something has to be done. Something very solid has to be done for the whole food service sector and the tourism sector that our country is very, you know, that very is dependent on. And the Western Association have put some very important points to government, and hopefully they will be taken on board. But I think all the agencies, Board Bia were very good in helping, you know, Kosh, you know, from a PR campaign and getting our message out there. They are also working, you know, it's important that they work with other food producers and manufacturers in giving them the supports they need, whether it be promotional supports, whether it be in funding for marketing or for new designs. I think the other agencies like local enterprise boards have to come. I mean, I'm getting inundated with emails about, you know, online skills course and all this kind of thing, but I'm still in business, so I'm very busy. I actually haven't had the time to upskill in anything, because I've been juggling a lot of balls on it, you know, with minimum resources. I find a lot of agencies are great for giving courses, but we need actual concrete help, as in, you know, concrete help, in promotional help, platforms of how to set up an online. But for I had somebody I knew was able to do for me. I mean, other people have struggled with that, online platforms. And also networks coming together is very important, you know, as I have been doing with Kosh within the Burren ecotourism, just networks coming together and grouping together, so that everybody is not kind of plowing away their own field. Well, doing that, but also doing it collectively is very important.
Yeah, absolutely.
And obviously, Ruth, the public, to keep buying Irish and keep supporting Irish.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I believe so strongly in that collective approach and the peer learning, you know, because so the hive mind can, you know, produce and progress things so much quicker than everyone trying to do it on their own. But yeah, look, I mean, I suppose there's been amazing innovations, and it's brilliant to see how people have stepped up, and, you know, groups, as you said, like the Burren group coming out with the Burren box, just reacting so quickly. But if those networks weren't already established, that wouldn't have been able to happen. And I think that's a huge sectors and areas.
And if the public just think they should buy locally first. I mean, My Hill Community Farm set up a farm shop locally, and they're stocking a number of local products, including our own cheese. And if people just think about, you know, rather than just, we need to get out of the cycle of just going to the big supermarket. We need to go back to what our parents did and our grandparents did, you know. Just think, because even from an environmental point of view and everything, the less you travel to buy your food, you know, the better it is for you yourself, from a health point of view, from your family's point of view, but also from an economic and environment point of view. Just to really think about what you're buying, and buying local as much as possible.
Absolutely. And I mean, that direct impact for your local economy, you're literally putting that money back into your own community.
Of course, and we need to think, you know, we need to think about our own community. I mean, we're great I think from sporting organisations, we've always been very good. I mean, there's nothing like, you know, parish matches, club games and club finals. We've been very good at that. But we need to bring it we need to have the same mindset when it comes to, you know, food and sourcing local products, not just food, other, you know, arts or facilities and services, to supporting local first, to bring the same mindset that comes with club and county in sports and to food and other products within the area. We really need to get to that mindset as a nation.
I love that. Yeah, I think that's brilliant, and you're right, that the strength of the whole GAA and sport mindset is exactly what we need to bring to our food culture.
We get very tribal in our sports, but it's a good thing, and it's a good thing. It's actually a good thing for the greater good, not just for your tribe. I mean, from a world point of view, if we all had this kind of vision about supporting your local tribe, which was the tradition, it would have a huge impact on the world. Because I really feel this whole crisis has been Mother Nature really telling us, you know, humans, you need to wake up here. You know, who's in charge here, and these are the consequences if we continue to be such consumers and be so neglectful about the important things in life. I mean, cheap food, cheap travel, you know, cheap lives at this stage have got to this stage, and we really need to become, where I say tribal, but tribal for the greater good, to look after one another and look after the environment and the earth.
Oh, brilliant, Siobhan! You're a sage, and you're very inspiring, and one of the really fantastic champions in our food culture and our food sector. And it's always so lovely to talk to you.
Thanks very much.